I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. Welcome to the lovely, the talented, the worldwide award-winning Mac.
So weird to say. So weird to hear.
It feels surreal, doesn't it?
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, because really nothing's changed for me, and we're it's still just a City Bitty channel. Just doing what we do 2 days a week. So
yeah,
it's very strange to hear.
So, it's nice to see you, Body Illusion. Nice to see you, Indigo. And we've got Crystal in the back. She's gonna keep us all on the level here. So, okay. Yes, yeah, it's good to see. It's been a long time since I've actually spoken with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, how you been?
Not too bad. We're just kind of motoring through. I'm getting ready to house sit in a few days. My parents are headed to Hawaii. So
nice.
I know. Like, you really don't want to take us along, but
yeah.
So
yeah. I like Indigo's thought here. I think it will change, Mac. You planted a seed and the tree will grow. Not change you like big head, but watching the ball roll.
I think this is the year. Everything that has been going on, and the signs that I've kind of had is all that 2025 was a year of new beginnings. It was a time for things to change, things to build, and so far that seems to be happening. We're just kind of building on one another type of thing, and we were speaking beforehand about some of the guests that I might have on, or that I will have on in May. And so just kind of upping the quality of our guests a little bit more in terms of credentials. Not that everybody isn't lovely and is wonderful, but just in terms of, the qualifications and things like that. And I think with the other things that I've got going on this year, I mean, I'm really excited to kind of see where the year ends up, to be able to look back at 2025 and see what happened.
I had no idea. Or did you have an idea that this all might happen?
No, I mean, with the award, I was floored. I mean, it was funny because I was talking to some friends ahead of time, and I didn't say anything, but there was this kind of inkling back in the thing that says, sure, you breeze through law school, you can do this, you can, you got this, but there's that other part of me that was looking at the other. I mean, I was one of the few categories that were full up of 12 finalists. Others, they didn't quite have enough, right? And I remember reading when they posted all the finalists and where they were from or what they were doing. I was sitting with my son one morning at breakfast before he left for work, and I was reading through these things, and he just came over and he patted me on the shoulder and he said, "Well, good luck with that, Mom."
Why, thank you, my son. I really appreciate your support.
You're just, exactly. He's just like, listen, this best-selling, world-renowned author, and this person who started that magazine, and this person who started that magazine, and it's just kind of going on, and it's like, yeah, and you're doing this little channel here. So when they got to second and they announced Terry Rouse, who is a very well-known author and speaker, I thought there's no way I could have beat out Dr. Rouse. She already won one category that we've been looking at. I think took third in another or something. And I'm like, okay. I didn't get any of the
run.
Yeah, exactly. I thought maybe I'll get the honorable mentions, but I was like, okay, whatever. And my face is on the screen, and that's why you see the beginning of my reaction is just my jaw is just on the floor. My mouth is just open, and because I absolutely could not believe it. I thought, what did they see? Because originally I thought, I could have sworn when we originally put our stuff in, the finalists, that they said they would choose the finalists, and then in order to choose the winner, they would, because you had to, there's this whole written application that you have to do and all these questions. It takes quite a long time to go through it. And
Mhm.
so that's all the written stuff. And I could have sworn they said that they were going to do interviews after that with the finalists. And I thought, okay, this I got. This I can rock, right? I mean, my written stuff, it is what it is. It looks the way it does on paper, but I can talk about my channel. I can talk about trauma. I can talk about why I do what
The
I do.
passion comes through, and
Right? I'm like,
yeah.
I got this. And then when they announced, London, and when the award ceremony was going to be and everything, and they're like, yeah, and the winners will be chosen based on the written materials. And I was like, oh, dang.
I would have tried harder.
I was saying exactly what I was thinking, because I was
Oh,
at the
yeah.
last minute. It really was a last minute thing, in terms of, I was nominated by somebody else, Crystal Phoenix Rising.
I was going to say,
you guys
Crystal
know.
Phoenix.
Yep, she
Yeah.
nominated me, and then you have to do your submission, and
Mhm.
it does cost some money to do it. And
Mhm.
I think it was like $125 to be considered for one category. You could consider up to
That's not bad.
6. It wasn't, not so. And all the money
Yeah.
that they raise goes to the philanthropic organization, Dr. Teresa Tri's organization, which
Mhm.
provides education, secondary education, mainly secondary and university education fees for rural girls in Zimbabwe, so that they can get
Wow.
out of the cycle of
Oh,
just
yeah.
marrying and, having babies and being a housewife. So everything this is one of their ways that they fundraise basically for it. So I
Mhm.
was okay with that, because other people are like, wait a minute, you have to actually pay to get into it. And I'm like, when I explained it to them and where the money
Yeah.
goes, they're like, okay, that makes sense. And I'm behind it, so.
Yeah, I can stand behind that one, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly.
Yeah, for
Exactly. I can, their cause is definitely a worthy one. And she's been working at it for quite a long time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's from Zimbabwe, and I do believe
Mhm.
lives in London now. But
Mhm.
so I was definitely blown away. Blown
Well,
away.
what do you want to do first? Do you want to describe what your work is that you were nominated for, or do you want to see the actual award event?
Well, I'll tell you what I was nominated for. So originally, I actually put myself in a different category, because
Mhm.
there are a bunch of different categories,
There
and I'm
were,
like
yeah.
trying to figure out. So I put myself in, it's called Rising Star. It's doing what you're doing for less than 5 years. And I'm like, okay, I've been working with
Sure.
trauma survivors. That's more than 5 years, but I've only been doing the channel, which is really the
Right.
mainstay of what, where I am.
Right.
I've only been doing that for less than 5 years. So when I
Mhm.
got the finalist notification, they had actually switched me and put me in journalism and media category.
Because it's YouTube.
Exactly. Makes perfect sense. Now that I think about it, I'm like, oh, why didn't I think about that in the first place? I could have just chosen me there, right?
They assigned you. They didn't just kick you out.
Exactly. That was really, I was surprised at that. And
Yeah.
obviously they saw something, worthwhile
Mhm.
in what I was doing in order to move me over to the category.
Mhm.
And in retrospect, so my YouTube channel is really surviving together is why I ended up in that category. So it's just all the work that I do through the channel. And when I look at the other people who are in the channel, I think I was one of the only ones who was focused on any sort of trauma, be it sexual assault or
Mm.
domestic violence, or really even mental health.
Yeah.
The other people were more literacy, whether it was geared towards kids or disabled or, whatever,
Right.
or
Yeah.
just general magazine, promoting
Yes.
women type of thing. And it's like the only thing that I can think of that kind of gave me the edge over in when they were looking over everybody,
It
saying
set you apart.
exactly that this is she's doing something here, and yeah, she's got a niche, but this is a needed niche.
It's an
So,
important niche. Absolutely. So we will talk more about what you do and all that, but let's take a look at the awards celebration here. Okay, let me know if you can hear this. Come on. Oh, I have to go over here and hit play.
And the winners are, with an honorable mention, Denise Kamalo.
I thought, darn.
In third place, Melissa Burton. In second place, Dr. Terry Rouse. And
Now
the winner
listen.
is Sharon Sweetek.
Oh, I was expecting crickets. Okay. And
Close
there you
to.
are.
Close to crickets.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Sharon's unable to be here, but I'm sure she's joining us live on our live stream. So congratulations, Sharon. I'll accept this award on your behalf.
Amanda, can you pause the
Our next
ceremony for a
category
minute?
is
Yep.
Women in Literature. Congratulations
Oh, oh,
to
oh,
all
oh,
of the
oh, oh.
finalists in this.
There we go. Yes. All right.
stunned, absolutely stunned. And I was so appreciative, and I am so appreciative of the people that are in the SAS community on my
Mhm.
channel, because so many of them were saying, you got this, you got this, you got this. And it was like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But then to actually have it happen and to have been streaming it live on the channel with everybody was a really special moment for me.
Crystal was at my house when that happened, and it
Oh,
got
was
really
she?
loud in my house for a little bit there. And Doug's like, what on earth is going on?
She won.
Yeah, exactly. Who won?
That's funny. I didn't know she was there.
Oh, yeah. We were watching on the computer.
That's
was good.
great. That's great.
Yeah. So shall we watch the rest and watch your
Yes.
reception? Here we go.
In this category.
Oh my God, you guys. I think you can understand my shock and my emotion to be among the women who are at that awards ceremony. The women who are in that category, to be recognized for a 400 subscriber YouTube channel and the work that I have been doing my entire adult life, working with trauma survivors. I am going to tell you that the sassy community is what made this possible. You guys have brought the passion to what I do. I do this because of you. And I could not have done it without you. This community, without being as supportive of not only myself, but of one another, this channel would not be what it is. And so I cannot thank you enough for caring about each other, for supporting each other, and for being so welcoming to all of the new people who have come into this channel and have given their vulnerability over. Oh, I just need to say thank you. I love each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, I'm going to turn the rest of the award ceremony on.
All right.
Oh, it's got me tearing up all up.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Okay.
And I turned around and called my son.
For
And I
sure.
said,
Absolutely.
he was at work, so it's kind of hard to hear at work. So I had to call him a couple times, right back to back to back. So his phone was ringing. And he's like, "What, Mom?" And I'm like, "Hey, you know that award that I was up for, that finalist award?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I won." And he just went, "Say again?" I was like, "What?" I'm just like, "No." I said, I won. I won the category.
To date myself just a little bit. What you talking about, Willis? Okay.
Exactly. And he just was like, "Oh my God." And he was so excited for me. He goes, "Okay, tell me again, who was the awards first?" And so he hung up the phone and he's like, he's telling the whole shop and stuff. Like, here's the thing that, she did. So yeah, he was,
my cheeks hurt from smiling so much.
I know, right? He was just so wonderful. Like, he came home and he gave me an absolutely big hug. And then his girlfriend came over and she brought me flowers that are still lasting. Look, those are them
Ooh,
still.
Those are beautiful.
I know. And 2 pints of ice cream, those are long gone. So she knew
The flowers lasted longer than the ice cream.
Oh,
that's not a
hell
good
yeah.
sign, my friend.
Many, many days longer than the ice. That ice cream did not last very long.
It was
very long.
gone.
She knew the way to my heart. So I said, the
There you
flowers,
go.
nice touch, but the ice cream, you could have just gotten 4 and skipped the flowers.
That's
and I
right.
would have been just as
That's right.
happy. But yeah, it was great. And I since have reached out to a lot of the people who were award winning finalists, because those are the only names that I actually have. So I just started going through the list, and anybody who could find on LinkedIn. And I don't even think I've made it through the entire list yet, but and some people haven't, returned friend, I guess it's connection requests, but
right.
But that's fine. But so many people have, and it's it's been wonderful, and just connecting with those other people and sharing, a little bit about myself and a little bit about the journey, and that's how I met the trauma informed therapist. And I said, "Hey, you interested in being on the channel?" Because I love it. And it was like, great. And I asked somebody else and they were like, "Nope, not interested, just not for me." And they have more of a kind of a business type thing. And it's like, that's okay. Not everybody's going to want to do it, for whatever reason. Maybe they don't like being on the camera. Maybe they, don't have time, whatever. But all you can do is ask.
With the trauma informed therapist, your channel is for trauma survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like right in her wheelhouse there,
Boom.
right?
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure she, hopes that she can probably get some people signed up for, an actual workshop and she can promote
Yeah.
that. That's fine. And I'll put her links on. But the fact that
Absolutely.
she was willing and even said in the email to me, I'd love to do a pro bono workshop for you.
Mhm.
I was like, of course.
Nice.
Pro bono, you had me. Those are my words. So
We like pro bono.
yes,
Yes.
exactly. Anything free, anything free. What's your speaker free? It better be 0 because that's my budget.
Exactly. I know that feeling so well.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I had an invite for somebody else, and they had this form you had to actually fill out, and it was like, "What was your speaker budget?" I was like,
Who the?
exactly. We're looking for you to throw us a phone. So
Yeah, exactly.
we're actually 450, not 400 subscriber. We're at 450, so we've grown just by that oomph. So we're
You're
getting
50
closer.
away from being monetizable.
Yes.
Partially.
Yes. At less than 300 watch hours from the
Really?
3,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they do it in a rolling
watch
12.
hours. Yeah.
Because they do that in the 365. So it's,
Yeah.
I had almost 3,000 last year.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, in the first year, which was great. I was thrilled about it. And I think we only had like
Mm.
250 people at the time. So once we got to 500 from still lacking in the watch hours, I know we can make that up,
Absolutely.
lickety split.
Yeah.
That won't take very long. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Oh, that's so exciting.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I will get a chance to meet the presenter, her and her sister, Katie and Peace. They actually head up the book as well, the book writing. So we'll have some Zoom calls with them.
I'm just going to put up this comment. Mandy says, also bad news. The SA Victim Support nonprofit got their funding pulled because they used banned words like LGBTQIA and diversity. Oh, that is horrific.
What nonprofit? I'm wondering.
Are you talking about the South Africa one or the...
She said the one I work for. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's put that up.
Pave.org. I've heard of this. I have heard of this.
Okay, we're going to leave this up for a little while.
Yeah, that's just...
And Mandy, is there a Cash App or a way we can support the organization? They give free support to support groups for survivors.
I'm guessing funding from the government.
I'm thinking funding from the government because the Doge experiment has gotten rid of almost anything to do with inclusion as per the president's orders.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be just awful.
I'm really hoping that some of that will end up backtracking.
Yes.
We'll have to see. If Harvard goes through with their lawsuit, I think that that'll have a huge impact on everybody else. Because if the Supreme Court gets involved and says, no, you can't do this, they're going to have to backtrack on all the other stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's the same. It's going to be same ruling, just different organization, right? You're just dealing with higher education versus dealing with a nonprofit. But the concept there is the same.
Well, they say that Harvard is a not-for-profit university. So they say.
Okay.
So, yeah. Janet says, I'm so sorry, but what is going on politically in the U.S. is terrifying. And it is. So grateful to be a Canadian when our worst problem is, okay, do we go for the old guy who's a liar or the young guy who's a liar? You pick.
There you go.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I know which liar I plan on supporting, but you know, it's
Yeah, right. Which is your lesser of two evils.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting rest of 2025. I don't know how far that lawsuit will get this year, and so I would not
Mhm.
expect a decision until probably their spring session, which I think it's April, or it'd be about this time next year that they would start putting out their decisions. It's too
Mhm.
late for their winter decisions that would have to.
Really? It's only barely spring.
I know, but you got to think about there's going to be so much, and I'm going to guess that the amicus briefs, which are
Mm,
people who aren't party to the actual litigation, they
right.
want to intervene and actually file a brief on behalf of their organization. I'm going to bet that there's going to be a lot of those coming out of the woodwork, and the court is going to have to decide on each one as to whether or not they actually are going to be allowed to file a brief. And
Mhm.
then each of the parties have a right to respond to those. And so there's timelines with all of those that are involved. So I'm thinking it's going to be quite a while before they get there.
Yeah. So Mandy's going to post their links on her community tab soon.
That's
so
great.
yeah, once Mandy gets their links up, then absolutely.
Maybe this is that small turning point where you start to see grassroots, where more people are looking at their organizations and going, well, listen, if our government isn't going to fund it, we have to do something,
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
kind of like when Trump had his first run, and Obama started using the internet, it was all about donate $5, donate $10. We're not looking for they want the huge donors as well, right? But if they can get
right.
hundreds of thousands of people donating $5, that adds up so quickly.
Oh, does it ever? Yes.
Yeah. So, maybe that's the wave of the future, kind of neighbor helping neighbor, getting a little bit more of that back,
Community.
Go figure, right?
Who knew?
Exactly.
Connection. Yeah.
Let's help each other. Be kind, right? I just did my live yesterday about being kind and about giving forward and all of that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, if you can donate $1, if you can donate $2,
speaking of donating $1,
add up so quickly.
Why might we want to know about donating $1 here, Matt?
This seems so much more important, though. I just I feel bad.
I wouldn't say more important. I would say different important, because it is very important as well. Mac is raising some money for she's raising money for a book that you are going to be a part of, correct?
Correct. There are 25 authors.
Okay.
They chose 25 authors from the finalists that were named for the awards. And you had to do a short submission on kind of what your story might be about. And so I was chosen to be one of the 25 authors, asked to be a part of it. And they do a lot of work for us in terms of publicity wise, but the actual publishing costs are split amongst all of the 25 authors.
Yeah.
And in getting the book out, all of the proceeds from the sales of the book go to Teresa Try International, her nonprofit, which provides the education fees for the rural girls in Zimbabwe. So the book sales are simply there to raise money. But they said, like last year, they put a billboard up in Times Square when they did the launch. They actually gave a copy of each of the book to in the swag bags to all of the Oscar nominees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it
So what's
so who
the name
knows
of
where
the
it'll go.
organization that you got an award from? The name of the organization is?
The awards for the awards and the basically who runs the book is
Right.
Women Changing the World Global Awards. They
Mhm.
actually, and I will let you know, so WCWawards.com is their website. They are currently taking nominations for Women Changing the World America's Awards. So North and South America.
Oh, okay.
And they will take nominations up until beginning of September sometime. So you got
Mhm.
quite a ways that you can actually nominate somebody. But you just need their their name, their email address, I think maybe a phone number, for
Mhm.
contact, and then
Mhm.
why are you nominating them? And it's a short, simple form that you can do, and there's a link right through the website that Kim threw up. So yeah, if you know anybody in North and South America you think is deserving of an award, and there's tons of categories, you can go and look on the website too, and it lists all the different categories that there are. So you can nominate them for whatever.
Mhm.
But our book launch will coincide with the winners announcements of the America's Awards. So
Okay.
November 7th is going to be the book launch. And so that's when I plan on being in New York City for the book launch. And they have a summit that goes along with the book launch. And anybody who is there, any of the authors who are there will actually be on a panel speaking at the summit.
Wonderful. Oh, that's
So
fabulous.
another reason why I want to be there, to meet all the people who
Oh,
are there,
yeah.
and then to be able to speak on a panel at the summit where you've got all these people sitting listening to you as well.
Yep.
Just, awesome.
Absolutely.
And I do it, and my story is just going to be about trauma, resilience, hope,
Mhm.
and the fact that surviving together exists, and that there's a place that people can come.
Mhm.
Everything that I'm doing with this is for the channel, and is for channel growth and channel exposure, to be able to spread the word. And I'm really, really excited about it. Should be great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that sounds like fun, like terrifying, like all of that rolled into one,
Yeah.
one ball of anxiety. I don't know. Just, yeah.
I'm super excited. It's actually 3 days, which is a little bit. No, I guess it's about the same as they have, but if you go there, if you're one of the authors, they will give you a free pass. So I don't actually have to buy a ticket to the summit, which is really nice.
Nice.
So
Just plane ticket to get there, and hotel and food and gas and
I am, and I have been announcing it in my live and in other people's lives who I know people on the East Coast. I'm like, guys, I'm looking for couches to stay on. I am not staying in Midtown Manhattan at the Hyatt or wherever they have us there. I'm like, no,
oh my
this is, like,
goodness, yes.
way too expensive. I'm like, $500 for a plane ticket. Just get me there and get me home.
That's
I'll
right.
find a way. I have a friend in Washington, D.C., and he might drive up too for it. So
Oh, nice.
yeah. So
Okay.
and anybody else who's in the area is welcome to
And
buy a
you won't
ticket for the
forget us
summit.
when you get rich and famous, will you, Matt?
Yeah, right.
No, you guys, you're gone. I don't remember these people, the first 400.
It's
You know,
just like so last year. Now,
I know.
it's funny because some people were asking me, well, how much are you going to make from the book? And I'm like, zero.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not a moneymaker for me. And it's not why I'm doing it. Even before I found out that the proceeds went to the nonprofit, it is simply about the exposure of my story as to why
Mhm.
I'm doing the channel, and that the channel is there, and that if people need, they can come in. And honestly, now with what um, with the news about PAVE, I think it makes channels like mine just all the more important.
So important. Absolutely.
Someplace that you can go for free. I mean,
Yeah.
the support group is the chat, right? It's the other people that you
Right.
meet, that you make connections with.
Exactly.
And I'm very open about the fact I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a trained attorney. You know, it's about as far away as you can get. But I come from the avenue of experience.
Yeah.
And I read as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so I learn just along with everybody else. You know, every time I'm bringing something new. And
Mhm.
I definitely won't forget you guys. You guys are the community, you know, the people who keep showing up week after week. And I had to write a separate speech because it can only be like a minute long. So I couldn't cut and paste from what you showed, which I
No.
was hoping, you know, but I'm like, no, so I had to write something different. But even in that, guys, my award is dedicated to the SAS community, because I wouldn't have a channel without you. If you didn't show up week after week, if you didn't believe in me, if you didn't believe in each other and weren't so kind and nice and built the connections with each other, my channel wouldn't thrive.
Exactly.
So the exposure is just to be able to bring more people into the mix and to have them know that there's a place that they can come, whether they're lurkers or whether they end up coming into the chat.
Mm-hmm. So if people want to help you raise money for the book, or raise money for your trip to New York, or raise money for whatever it is that you are raising money for, because there will be different projects, I imagine, throughout the year, over the years, etc. What PayPal, Cash App, Venmo? In Canada, we can only give you through PayPal.
Right now, I just have PayPal and Cash App. If somebody needs a different method, just email me, survivingtogethersass@gmail.com. And my email and the donation links are in every video description. But on PayPal, it's just @survivingtogether. On Cash App, it's just that money sign, Surviving Together. Thankfully, they were not taken, so I got it as easy as possible. So yeah, I've one other trip to Salt Lake City that I'm planning on taking this year, and that is for a 4-day trauma retreat at sapria.org. They are all about everything to do with child sexual abuse. And I did their webinar. There's a free webinar that you can do that is kind of a basic thing. And the book that it's based off of, I put a link. I was able to get permission, thankfully. So I do have a live that's entitled Free Trauma Book. So you can get their link to that. And it basically just talks about everything with trauma and goes through it. But they have a small group of trauma survivors, child sexual assault, abuse survivors specifically, who come together for 4 days and at this wonderful place in Salt Lake City. And I was chosen to go. Yeah, I just have to pay for transportation. The retreat's paid for by Sapria because there's an application process. And so I was chosen as a person to be a part of that. So
Crumel has a hotel for you. I'm assuming
the
at the Lennox Hotel on 42nd or 42th Street, 42nd Street, 50 bucks a night.
Neighborhood's a bit sketchy, but
I'm sure there will be people who'd be willing to come and be the muscle for you.
There you go. Crumel, I already told Tommy that I'm couch surfing and that he's driving me in across the bridge. So as long as he still has his apartment in November, I said I'm coming in. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Anybody else in the New York City area? Yes, I'm looking for couches for like 3-4 days.
Yeah, she'll do potluck. I mean,
I will. I'll cook. I'll clean. Whatever time I have.
If your bathroom needs a little extra scrub, just ask her. I'm sure.
I'm willing to put in the work. So definitely, we can make some. We can make some tit for tat here.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
if anybody, because we've got a lot of people watching from your channel, if anybody from my channel doesn't know what your channel is about, please tell us.
So, in a nutshell, my channel is a safe space for all trauma survivors, regardless of the traumatic event that you suffered, to come together and connect and build community on their healing journey. No matter where you are in your healing journey, whether you're just starting or whether you've been on it for a while. And also, it provides trauma related education for all, because the statistics show that chances are, if you are not a survivor yourself of trauma right now, you will know somebody in your lifetime who is, or you yourself maybe become one.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
stats are just astronomical. So
Yeah.
I think it is beholden upon all of us to educate ourselves as to what trauma is, what its effects are, how do we manage it, and how do we prevent it in the certain circumstances that we can. And studies have actually shown that in places where they have done community education efforts, like, really severe, strong, community education efforts, that the rates of sexual assaults have dropped significantly. We're
Wow.
talking 60-70% drop.
That is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, again, you kind of have to take the numbers with a grain of salt, because we don't know what's unreported, right? So, but still, when you have that many people in a community, and these are very, very small communities, right? Because that's the way they were able to kind of figure out the study, that the information kind of got to everybody. When people are looking out for each other and not just passing over, if your kid is on that little league team, and you see that coach is always pulling that one kid aside, or always is the one who is picking them up, leaving with them, always doing
chosen to be the bat boy, always chosen
just
to
always the extra effort or whatever. That guy could be the most golden person in the universe, but they could also have nefarious purposes, right?
Exactly.
So if we're at least questioning it, if we're keeping our eyes open, if we know what to look for, then we're able to help prevent stuff as well as, the education goes for adults as well as for all the children. And the more the adults know, the more they're going to be able to educate their own children, their nieces, their nephews, their friends' kids, whoever it is, at whatever age appropriate level that it is, what to look for. And, I've shared this before. My son's group, they had somebody in there who was basically approached and was kind of in the early stages of grooming. Because they all had the knowledge, they were able to point out to this person and say, I don't think, yeah, he's saying on the one level that this is what he wants to do, but we're not getting a great feeling about this. This just seems weird. He gave you this gift out of kind of nowhere,
and it's inappropriately big or expensive, or
and just so they were really, so when there was the first kind of overt even suggestion, that kid was out of there. And it was because the own friend group knew and was talking to them. They're the ones who have the best eyes on, the kids, right? Or your other kids' friends. And that's not always possible, because groomers like to choose the loners, the people who are the most vulnerable, who often don't have a lot of friends, who don't have a good support system. But if they knew what to look for, they might be able to find enough strength inside themselves to say, yeah, this person's giving me a lot of stuff that I need, whether it's emotional, whether it's monetary.
But what are they looking for in return?
Yeah, or at least when that first kind of overt, back massage happens or something is just not
Mhm.
feeling right, that they learn to trust their gut, that they absolutely 100% trust their gut.
Mhm.
And it
Another
just is
group of
so needed.
people, another group of people who are incredibly vulnerable, and this is going to sound horrible, are wives. And I'm not talking wives who are getting beaten. I'm talking about wives who are being subtly pressured into, right?
Oh, you
Like,
mean
where,
within the marriage, the partner?
yes, within the marriage.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Sorry, I was not quite clear on that one.
I was like the stay-at-home mom who's bored. I was kind of like going, I'm like,
There
which
are
are
whole
we
movies
taking?
about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, partner abuse is real, is
mhm.
absolutely real. It's a
Yeah.
reason that marital rape was finally made a crime, which for most places wasn't until the late 80s. Most states by 1980 had made it a crime,
Mm,
but it was within the 70s that happened. And so
mhm.
think about it before then. If you were married,
Didn't matter. You
didn't
were
matter.
property.
Yeah. He's your
Yeah.
husband. You're supposed to be doing
Oh,
stuff. And if
yeah.
he wants to do something else, well,
That's right.
that's
Yeah.
just his prerogative. So,
Yeah.
um, absolutely for anybody. And that's why I say education for all, because it is for anybody. And no matter what your situation is, whether it's kids, whether it's adults, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not in a relationship. And that's why I've tried
Mhm.
to cover, so many different topics my first year of just getting a real good base down as to what trauma is, what the effects are, what are different scenarios that we could possibly be looking at. And so
Mhm.
this year when I was looking at topics, I mean, I definitely, wanted to expand upon it.
Mhm. So, is there a small pamphlet or book on quick grooming signs? I'm sure there has to be something out there. And
Yeah,
if not, we should make one.
Rick, I think I have one in my research folder. So
Mhm.
if you email me, I'd be happy to send that on to you.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, I do believe Sapria made something.
Okay. Deb has always been a people pleaser and timid, and she thinks she might have been easy prey. I'm happy there are places to go and more awareness of this. And then Indigo's talking about it's a it's a crime. They're familiar with partner abuse. They've never been married, but sexual coercion is definitely real. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what age you are. I'm talking 18 to whatever.
To
We
100.
often,
Yeah.
yeah, we often think about the most vulnerable ones being that 18 to 25-year-olds because they kind of don't know any different, but it
Honestly,
can happen at
I would
any age.
suggest that, well, yeah, I'd suggest even especially the older women would be even more susceptible because they grew up in that time of this is
Yeah,
just what happens,
yeah,
right?
if it was
So
happening
women
to
who are
them then.
currently in their 60s and older, like the baby boomers, they're right between that. They are the era when sexual freedom was becoming real in the 60s
Mhm.
and 70s, right? And yet they were still really taken advantage of because they were becoming more free, right? It
Mhm.
was this catch 22 going on there.
Well, it's like if you were single, you could do this free thing, but as soon as you got married, it was a whole different set of rules and expectations,
Absolutely. Yeah.
even as society at large,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I feel like that continued for a really good portion of the 20th century, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
by the
Yeah.
2000s, I think there was some more understanding. Mental health was
Mhm.
starting to be talked about a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, I see that we came a little bit farther in terms of, most places by then had rape shield laws, so you couldn't bring in victims past.
Right.
If there was a crime, what
Yeah.
were they wearing and what was their history? And, you
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
do any
And were
of
you
that.
flirting? And did you say no at every stage?
Right, exactly.
And
Did you yell, and so if you froze, you didn't say anything, so
Yeah.
there's a much better understanding of trauma and how it works, and starting to be some forensic techniques in interviews. But even nowadays, you do have kind of that last vestige of police officers, that are still kind of holding on to some old thought patterns.
Yeah, and even
Mixed,
young police officers who wish they were old. Like there
or
still
depending
are
on,
those Neanderthal holdovers of my age, my daughter's ages, and so on and so forth.
well, depending on how you grew up and what
Mhm.
your environment was, what your culture was, what your parental influence was, all of that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. If that's just the expectation, if you've always got people around you saying, "Oh, that other stuff is just hogwash," yeah,
Mhm.
right. That's just the liberals trying to, make it okay or whatever.
Right.
It's, yeah, and that's how things like that get passed from generation to generation. So even though they have to go through sensitivity training and they have to go through the trauma training,
Yeah.
it doesn't stick with everybody. But it is,
Exactly.
it is getting better. And that's all we can hope, is that the next generation is going to see something, even better than that.
Yeah. I remember as well, Brian, when the movie The
Yep.
Accused came out, I went to the movie theater with my mom. It was a rated R movie. I was, I think, 17 or so. And I was the only person under the age of 30 in that theater. And mom was so embarrassed. And I'm like, Mom, don't be embarrassed. A, we got each other's backs. Don't you worry about that. But
Yeah.
B, this is an important movie.
Oh,
And so to be showing it to your child, to your daughter, to show this is reality,
yep.
that was, yeah.
I have to look up real quick what year.
Would have been like 89, 88 or 80. It would have been 89.
88.
88? Okay.
Yep. That movie was hugely powerful to me.
Huge.
It
Absolutely.
really got me thinking about, and until that movie came out, I had kind of put away, I was like 11 years old when I tried to, talk to my mom, and so I kind of
Mhm.
shut everything down after that and
Mhm.
didn't deal with it, didn't think about it. And that movie came out, and it really got me thinking again. And within 3 years, I was talking to a counselor at
Mhm.
college, and that's when they finally gave me the go ahead, the green light, and said, "Listen, you feel like a victim. You are a victim. If you feel something happened, something probably did happen." That body memory stuff, because I was really struggling with what had happened to me at that really young age, when I couldn't remember, but I just really felt like something did, so it's like,
Yeah.
I needed somebody else to tell me, yeah, it's okay. I had no
Right.
idea about body memories. I had no idea that I could be right on like a gut level that
Yeah.
way. And so for
When
somebody
I
to give me
was,
permission, it was just huge.
yeah. When I was going to college, one of my profs, my psychology prof, was an excellent child psychologist. And I could tell you a little bit more about why I know she was an excellent child psychologist later. But for right now, I told her about some dreams that I had when I was like 2-3 years old. And I can remember them even to this day. I remember the dreams. They weren't big, scary dreams. They weren't dreams where terrible things were happening to me. It was a dream where I was holding a little black ball, and the ball would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, it just got to be the whole picture. And I was covered and smothered in this ball. I wasn't really scared. It just was. And then there was other dreams when I was watching just a tiny little cloud. There was no rain coming out of it, but there's this tiny little cloud, and it was black. And then eventually, again, it would grow and it would end up smothering me. And she looked at me, she says, Kim, those are textbook dreams for children who've been assaulted pre-verbal.
You know, that is so interesting because I had a recurring dream when I was a kid, and I had a canopy bed, right? So I had that beautiful canopy. So when I'd look at it, I'd had this fabric up there, and it would just kind of start by a little ball, a little shadow, right? But the shadow would grow more into a face, and then there were some arms that would grow out of that, and it would get bigger and closer. And before it got to me, I would always wake up.
Yes. Yeah.
But I always had that dream, and it didn't stop till one point. My mom said, okay, we're going to take that dream. We're going to put it in this box. We're going to lock the box, and I'm going to take the key. So you can't open it, no matter how much you might want to or whatever. I have the key to it, so it can't open again. And lo and behold, I never had that dream again.
Wow.
But I also always remembered that I had that dream.
Yeah.
I never forgot it. And obviously to this day. And so like that combined with the fact that I just had this sense that something was going on with me. Again, just to, was trying to put the pieces together, and I couldn't. It felt like I had enough pieces, but until you have that like concrete memory, you feel like, okay, don't really know, right? Yeah. And it was really difficult for me to say, that there was more than likely abuse in this situation. It's just that I blocked it out. I don't remember it. Maybe it started when I was a little bit younger.
Right. You were too young to have that firm memory. Yeah.
So
I remember at that age, I'd have those dreams and my life was all good everywhere else. But there was this one neighbor I was scared of. He happened to be a principal at an elementary school. So like just oy vey, thinking about it turns my stomach. Yeah, I had a neighbor too. It's two doors down. The dad. Same.
That was, it's crazy. And to this day, I still don't like. I can hardly even do it. I can't get it too close. But something in front of my face, like if you were to put this directly in front of my face, even my own hand holding it there. Really? No. So like if someone was to take something like this and throw it over my face, I mean, I'm good enough to like throw it away. But my son would do it when he was little, and just to be funny, right? You go, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you, right? But they get, I can't do it. They get right up next to you. But if it was in front of my face, I freaking freak. And I tell him so many times, you can't.
But that's why he would do it, because it was a mommy said no.
Exactly. It wasn't until he got old enough that he could understand. I'm like, listen, mom doesn't like that. And it's just that it's not that I'm just telling you no, mom really doesn't like that. And I picked something that was really important to him that he didn't like or whatever. And I'm like, this is like that to mom. Then he could understand. And he would say
age appropriate.
Occasionally, he'd forget and understand or whatever, but yeah.
And again, you realize at that point, it's forgetting. It's not him being cruel.
Right.
And that's
he wasn't doing it on purpose and because he knew I didn't like it or anything like that.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah. So I've had to warn partners about that. Don't put your hands in front of my face. Don't put anything like that in front of my face. Don't ever, don't blindfold me. Don't, ask to blindfold me for a surprise. I'm going to lead you here. I'm like, no.
Yep. Nope. No pillowcases over this face. No, thank you. Yeah. No, we were talking about consent a little bit ago. And this is a video that I absolutely love. And I'm going to make us watch it because it is super important information done in a fun way. And people will remember that. So let's go. Oh, hang on.
Initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea?
Can you hear it?
Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea.
A little bit louder.
Then you know they want a cup of tea.
Just a sec.
If you say,
let's do this. Let's do that. And let's make this more than just minimum. Okay.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure." Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say, "No thank you," then don't make them tea at all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please, that's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, "But you wanted tea last week," or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat, going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
That's great.
Isn't that brilliant?
That is absolutely great. I love it.
I have put the link to that video in the chat.
Perfect.
Hang on. It is, oops, where are we here? Where is it
Wow,
that I-
Janet, my goodness. Well, I'm glad you were safe, hon.
Mhm. Okay, somewhere in here I had it.
I just have to go back real quick and say,
Yeah.
The Accused was the first movie that I remembered because it was 88. I was just in my late teens then.
Mm-hmm.
Coming on and actually talking about sexual assault in such a serious manner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And dealing with it in a scenario that
Mm-hmm.
you could feel could happen to anybody. I don't know if there were other movies out there that dealt with it, but it certainly was definitely groundbreaking in its.
That one, I think, if it wasn't the first, it was Among. It was incredibly well made.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was not just this trite piece of fluff. It got in there and gritty.
Yep.
It was really, really good.
Yep. It was definitely awesome.
That was great. My teenage granddaughters just watched it. Are you talking about the tea consent, or are you
I
talking
hope the
about?
yeah.
Please tell me it's the tea consent one, because
I mean, The Accused is good as well, but give
but-
them an extra hug after that.
Exactly. Yes. So, and Sam is watching while he's tattooing, which is kind of fun. Brian had watched it when it came out in home video. He hasn't watched it since. I don't really need to because it was burnt into my teenage brain. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yep.
Definitely. definitely can remember so much of that. And somebody made the comment earlier, Jodie Foster did an absolutely fabulous job
She was amazing. She is an amazing actress.
she really, yeah, in general, she really is. But
she
of
is convincing at
playing,
anything she's done.
yeah, playing somebody who was like, maybe she was looser in what she normally was, or what
Yeah.
other, an upstanding person was, but this one she didn't ask for, this one she didn't, and that,
And the group.
and it,
The
right,
group
and it,
egging
and
them
it
on,
presenting this notion
Who
that
was guilty?
just
Was it the
because
guy?
yeah,
Or
just
was it the
because you
group?
say yes on it, like the tea thing, just
Yeah.
because you say yes in other scenarios doesn't mean you're going to say yes in that scenario, and
That's
she
right.
was drunk, and she was she's possibly willing to sleep with one of them, maybe, but
Yeah.
then they, and yeah, and just then the whole peer pressure thing, and having kids from college, and that just brought in the whole, because if you remember the 80s, that was huge in date rape, right? They were really trying to bring awareness to what was going on with that, and particularly on college campuses.
Yeah. And actually, right now in Canada, there's a big court case going on with some youth. Some of whom have moved on to the NHL, but they were in the Canadian junior hockey team.
Yes, they were like
8
in
of them.
junior A's or something, right?
Yeah, they were the ones who went to that international competition in like on Boxing Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so this girl had consensual sex with one of them. Then at some point during the night, that guy called up his teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
Yeah.
So now all 8 are on trial
Mm-hmm.
for doing
Yeah.
this young woman just harm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's yeah, there's definitely and it's a shame, because the
Mhm.
amount of false reports is so minuscule. It really
Yes.
is so minuscule. But when you hear about cases like that they had at Duke, where the woman, admitted within a year that she had fabricated, and she has since come out. She has since come out again and said, yes, I fabricated, and here's what was going on for me. And she had some mental issues and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
It made it really hard, because I remember there's some other cases on college campuses. They were having a real
Mm-hmm.
problem with some frats and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that it made it really hard for the public to believe,
To accept. Yeah.
that this person. So it's like, that one person, that one case, and
Yeah.
it kind of taints, for
Yeah.
everybody else.
You
And-
said taint. Sorry. Yeah, I'm a 12-year-old boy at heart.
Yeah. such a minuscule time. Brian's just saying they should be locked up for a long time, and I agree.
Absolutely, they
I
should.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah. No, these. The reason I brought up married women was because I had recently learned from a friend of mine, who is the same age as my mom, who had just had a baby, stitched from stem to stern, 43 stitches.
Mm.
And that lady's husband insisted on his marital rights.
Right.
She got a bad infection, and now in her 70s, she's coming up with infections. She's coming up with polyps. She's coming up with all these other things that were because of that particular interaction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. I mean, no wasn't a word.
No.
Absolutely not. And,
Yeah.
this is why, on the one hand, like, I was thankful that I didn't have a girl because of all those stuff, and just because the majority of offenders are still male,
Mhm.
at least as far as statistics go, that we've been able to prove.
Mhm.
But I felt actually extra pressure in making sure that my son knew
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
consent, about when to ask consent, about, changing your mind. I mean, everything that video about the tea went
Oh yeah.
through.
Like we need to show that video to every grade 2 class. I'm
Right.
kidding, not quite that young. But like every young, just everybody.
100%, because it just, it's our responsibility as parents to make
Mhm.
sure that they understand, and
Mhm.
you have to start it probably younger than you think that you should or that you want to,
Yeah.
because we don't know at what age that they start engaging in sex. I mean, there are
Yep.
some 12, 14, 13, 14-year olds, they say 50% of middle schoolers have actually had sex, which is just mind-blowing to me.
Yep. I
But
have
so
a cousin who was
if we
in
don't start telling them early, they don't know.
yeah. I have a cousin who was in like 8th grade, and all of her friends were saying, "Oh yeah, we did it. We did it. We did it." And so she and her boyfriend decided, "Okay, let's do it and see, kind of what this is all about." They did it one time. Once she got pregnant.
Yeah. My
So,
my
yeah.
son's half sister, I mean, the woman was older, but
Mhm.
one time, first
Yeah.
time, one time,
Yep.
bang, that's his half sister.
That's right. Yeah,
Yep.
it's amazing. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and all the things that you can learn about it, that it's not like, it's like, well, I
Mhm.
just pull out and it'll be fine. Guys, that there's actually sperm in
Yep.
pre-com, right? It's like
That's
learning
right.
about all these other little things that it's like, no, if anything touches and can swim far enough, I mean, it is a longer shot. Let's be honest, right? But
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
a zero chance.
And if
So,
it's even on the outside, if it can get there,
right, if it's gonna swim, so
yeah,
you need to be, careful, and
I don't care if it's front
talking
crawl.
to well, and
Yeah.
talking to, I remember, I had a friend one time, and it's like, well, my girlfriend's on the pill, and I'm like, okay, that's great. What if
Mhm.
she forgets a day or two?
Or what if it happens anyways?
Yeah, the pill's
The
not.
pill's not 100% unless it's an aspirin held between your knees.
I had a girl in law school who got pregnant, and she was like, I was on the pill. How did I get pregnant? She was like, I was on the, and I'm like, dude, and I said, and that doesn't protect you from the other STDs. I mean, you might want to love your girlfriend. You might want to believe that they would never go anywhere, or that they've never.
Mhm.
I said, but what if it was from a previous relationship? There's some
Mhm.
STDs, STIs now they call them,
Yeah,
that are asymptomatic. You carry them, but you can be
that's right.
asymptomatic for a long time, and
Yeah.
then they show up. So
Yeah.
it may be something, and something I even just recently learned. I love my menopause doc. I call her my menopause doctor because that's why I went to her, was for, menopause reasons, but she's a women's health expert. And, she was talking to me about different STIs, and that there are
Mhm.
some that women can get from men, and there is
Mhm.
no test for men. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Go figure that one out. Like they you can't even like blame them, because they didn't even know they had it. And even if they had suspected
Exactly.
something, there's no test that exists for them. There's a
Yeah.
test that exists for women for it, but no test for men. And I was just like,
Wow.
mind blown. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what else do you have to tell me? Because every time I go to this woman, I learn something, absolutely new, that I'm
New
just
and
like,
disturbing.
holy Christ, why didn't I know this 30 years ago, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, there's so many, people kind of go through the normal list of what, 5 on the STI list. There's so
Yeah.
many more than that,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's not just
Absolutely.
gonorrhea and chlamydia and AIDS. Those kind of the big ones that people think about.
Mhm.
There is so much more out
Mhm.
there, and
Yeah.
you have to consider those factors. So yeah, people, when I talk to some people, and
Mhm.
I've even had to talk to potential partners about this, and have asked for their paperwork,
Mhm.
you know, and
Yeah.
show me your tests or whatever. And
Yeah.
somebody hadn't, and they went and got a test, and it found out that they were a carrier for a particular STI, and they had no idea. They were asymptomatic, so they weren't in jeopardy of passing it.
But they could have given it to
But
you.
they had no, they couldn't have because they were asymptomatic. They had to go symptomatic before you can pass. So they're just a
Oh.
carrier. And that's why some of the numbers on some of these STIs
Mm.
are so large, because some of them they're estimating how much of the population actually has it that is
Mhm.
asymptomatic. And so that was one, herpes is one that you can be asymptomatic on, and I'm blanking on the other one that's really common that you can be asymptomatic. You can be exposed to it,
Mhm.
what they call exposure, and that's why the numbers will show they've been exposed to it, but they're not actively having it. And it's these really
Mm.
kind of fine lines. And this person was like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." And I'm like, "Well,
So even if you've been exposed, let's use herpes for example. You've been exposed, you don't have symptoms.
you can be a
If you've had
carrier.
you can be a carrier.
You can be a carrier." And there are a lot of people go
Right.
their entire lives who never know because they're asymptomatic their entire lives. So it isn't until, well, say with herpes, it isn't until you actually have which they are developing a vaccine for, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
they are going to be in testing stages. So who knows? In the next
Wow.
5 years, you might actually have an HSV2, because it's the 2, which is considered the genital herpes. 1 is the cold sores.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's the 2 that we're talking about. With both, you could be asymptomatic, and it isn't until you actually have your first rupture that you can pass it on. So before you've
And
ever
you
had a rupture,
right.
a lesion that shows up, whether it's the cold sore or whether it's the type 1 or the type 2, until you have a lesion show up, you can just carry it, and you don't pass it on.
So if you don't have any lesions, like if I kiss somebody who's had cold sores, I can't get a cold sore from them if they don't actively have one, right? I know
Not
this is
true.
going to sound so stupid.
No,
You can.
and you can. You can.
Ooh.
With, when I started dating again at 50, this is why I know this stuff, because I really got back into it, because I'm like,
I don't plan on dating again.
Exactly, but I was putting myself into a whole new world that I knew nothing
Oh,
about.
were you
right?
ever?
I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, I've got all the stuff that I've got to consider. I went from marriage to marriage, and that was, high school to marriage to
Mhm.
marriage, and that was it. So this is my first time
Mhm.
kind of, getting in there, and I was like, I have so much to learn. And so, yeah. So when you're asymptomatic, like with herpes, HSV2, when you're asymptomatic, you cannot pass it. Once you have had symptoms for the first time, you are capable of passing it. Now, if you don't have an active lesion at that time, the chances of you passing it are very, very small. We're talking less than 5%.
Okay.
And then if, like, say you use a condom, it goes down even more.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the exact ones are for HSV1, but it's the same type of thing.
Really?
So yeah, it's
Hmm.
just, it's just your but you can still pass it.
But it's still
Because
that.
there's still a little bit, because the virus lives in the cells. And so you could have a virus infected cell, but if there's not enough of them to kind of create a lesion there, you could still pass that cell on. Now that cell
Mhm.
has to get into an opening for you. So it has to
Yeah.
get into your mouth or a cut or, something of that
Right.
nature to actually, that's how it gets in. But yeah, there's a lot of mothers who pass HSV1 on to their children.
Okay, there we go. Most cold sores are passed through grandmas, because most grandmas are so loving, they just pass it without knowing. No, but she's not wrong. She's not
No, I
wrong.
know.
People coming up and saying, "Oh, but let me just kiss your baby. I'll just kiss
Yes.
them on the cheek." Honey, no, I'm sorry, no.
or just the era that we were growing up in. I mean, this is my first lesson in consent from my son. He was like 6, 7, 8, and I'm like, we're going over to Nana and Papa's, make sure you give Nana a big, big hug and a kiss when you get there. He's like, I'll give her a hug, but I don't want to give her a kiss. I'm like, she's your Nana. And he goes, my body, my choice. And I just looked at him and I was like,
yes.
And I just kind of thunk on it for a minute, and I went,
You're wrong.
"You are so right.
Yes.
You are so right. Could you please
Oh,
give her
wow.
a hug?" But yeah, you can pass on the kiss. So it was a few visits that he had passed, and then he was kind of over it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a kind of amazing
Yeah.
how that worked. So yeah, there's a whole world to learn about STIs. If you are sexually active with anybody but your one partner who you've known for forever and are 100% sure that they've never gone anywhere else, you have to just arm yourself with the facts. Like I say, education is key. It doesn't matter what the subject is, so and do a lot of research.
And once you've been educated and you've been traumatized, you go to MAC.
There you go.
I've been traumatized just by this conversation.
Yeah, it's like you're over. Lord, what do you mean? Yeah.
What do you mean I can get cold sores just from
yeah, amazing, right? Yeah, that's why they
Wow.
estimate that there's probably upwards of, I've seen numbers from 60 to 80% of the population that has HSV2, but it's only about 20% of the population that is actively has it, which means that they are not asymptomatic. The rest of everybody else is just carriers, because you can pass it on from mother to child.
Yes.
So, if you're a carrier, you don't know it. You pass it on to your kid, and they don't know it.
Would you? How? Blah, 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 blah. How would they test you? Would it just
It's a blood
be like
test.
It's a blood test.
Mhm.
I didn't know it was a blood test.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Simple blood test, and they're able to look at the numbers and then see where you're at with it and whether or not you have the virus in your body.
Well. Okay then.
Most insurance will pay for it. There's a standard 10 panel. There's different number of panels, so 5 panel and 8 panel, 10 panel. There's add-ons and things that you can do. But most insurance will pay for it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's quite fascinating how we went from talking to about your award to talking about herpes. So
well, you played the thing on consent and tea, right?
There we go. That's what did it. Yes.
That's
I
what
showed
goes
my
there.
family 2 years ago. We were at a family reunion for my husband's family. And there were, yes, body illusion, trigger warning, take care of yourself. Yes, you're right.
Definitely.
Absolutely. But I'm like, guys, you got to see this, because my my sister-in-law, her husband kept offering her tea. And I'm like, have I got to show you this?
Oh my gosh,
we
you've
all
known about
sat-
this thing for that long?
Oh, I've known about this thing for years and years. My
Oh,
daughters
wow.
showed me when they were in high school. Yes.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Oh,
I
yes.
didn't know
Oh,
that.
yes.
Oh, wow.
So we I showed them this video, and then after that, everybody was like, so would you like some tea? Would you the whole weekend. And even now, every now and then they'll just say, so Kim, how have you had tea lately?
Exactly. That's just your code word. That's
Exactly.
awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I will definitely I'll definitely show it to my son and his girlfriend. They will laugh.
Oh yeah, it is. Like I said, it is a very, really apt message, fun presentation. You won't forget it, but you're also
Right.
not going to be traumatized by it either,
Right.
right? It's not like you can get the exact message that they want you to get.
And you
without
just have to
having to
make
get
that
into dirty
correlation at the
details.
end. Yep. You just have to make
I
the
know,
correlation
right?
at the end.
Yeah, so I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
Yes, exactly.
That's
See if I can find somebody to drink my tea.
I Okay, now I know I didn't hear it correctly, but when you said yes, exactly, I heard you say yes, sex actly. Yes, now that's where my brain is. We're talking about sex acts. Sex
Yep, you're
actly.
hearing everything. I tend to slur my words a little bit too.
Yeah,
when
I got a
talk too
dirty mind. What
fast,
can I
so,
say? It's
I think a lot of us do. We just don't let it out on YouTube very often.
well, the neat thing is I can have a dirty mind. I've been with the same guy for like 34 years. You know,
Exactly.
it's been a minute. But
Yeah.
you know, it's just one of those things where I can say, you know, honey, this is just fun.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
It should
Yeah.
be fun.
If you can't laugh about it, don't do it.
Exactly.
Something
Exactly.
else.
My number one rule for the bedroom: if you can't laugh in the bedroom, I don't want to be with you.
Oh, no, my number 2 rule would be that. My number 1 rule is if you're old enough to do it, you're old enough to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I
Very
would
much
talk
so.
when I was in high school, and when I was in high school, I was babysitting this young lady. She would have been in about grade 7 or something like that, grade 7 or 8. And she was asking me about it. And I'm like, well, these are the things that I would say. And the first thing I would say is, if you think you're old enough to do it, you'd better be talking to your partner about it. Because if you're old enough to do it, you're definitely old enough to talk about it. But I would be so embarrassed. But you wouldn't be embarrassed having him touch you like that?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
And
come
if
on
you can't
now.
use,
Let's
if you can't use the words,
priorities here.
if you can't talk, if you can't use the regular words, not using
If
euphemisms
you
or
have
anything
to
like
use
that.
thingy and,
Yeah.
you know, like you can't say the word vagina,
Mm-hmm.
you know. When I was in college, I was 30 something. Oh, awesome. I was in my
Thanks,
30s
Eric.
when I went to, and thank you to Disease. Is okay.
Desi.
Dizzy?
Desi.
Desi.
We
Okay,
always say,
Desi.
I always say Desi. So if that's not
Okay,
right,
we're gonna
Desi, you're
say
gonna have
Desi.
to
And
phonetically spell it for us.
thank you, Desi, for subscribing. I appreciate that. But no, I was talking to this girl and I said, okay, so first of all, you have to be able to talk about it. Second of
Mhm.
all, you have to be willing to be with this person for the entire rest of your life, right from the moment you have had sex with them, because protection doesn't always work. You might get pregnant, you know, because these things happen. Not only that, but this person will have a part of who you are for the rest of your life. You will never forget that person. Even if it's like just this much, you will never forget that person. And a few weeks later, I'm like, okay, I was babysitting your children, and this is your daughter and I had this conversation. And I said, I didn't tell her I was going to tell you about this conversation, but I think it's one you need to know that we had.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I told her my rules, and she's like, Kim, as long as that's what you're teaching them, you can talk to my kid about sex any day of the week. So I'm like, okay, cool. Good
Yeah.
to know. So,
That was
I mean,
one thing I drilled into my son's head. I said, you better be ready to have a baby every single time you do it,
absolutely.
because you just
Absolutely.
never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, so you can't just rely on the pill, and you can't just rely on, I mean, and I've talked to my son's girlfriend about sex before, and saying, you know, you can't rely on him, and he can't just rely on you. You guys have to bring your own protection to the table. And, you know, between the two of you, then, you know, cross your fingers that, you know, nothing will happen. Right. But,
the
you know,
only method of absolute total protection
foolproof,
is
right.
the full protection is the aspirin method. You put an aspirin between your knees and don't let it drop.
There you go.
Yeah. That was my mom's advice. Yeah. So I said that to one of my daughters, and they're like, yeah, but you can bend over. I don't want to know that you know that.
She's right.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Exactly. Well, you know, and just having my son has never He's always been comfortable talking to me. I mean, he may not.
Good.
He's always been talking. Let's say he's always been comfortable listening to me for the most part about anything.
Okay.
Whether or not he's going to talk back or just nod and go, yep, I understand
Yeah.
you.
Okay,
I know
Mom,
he's
quit
still
talking
listening.
now.
I know
Any
his
minute
ears.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Enough for tonight. Enough for tonight.
Yeah.
I know his
Yeah.
ears are open, right?
Yes.
And just talking to him and saying, listen, there is so much more to intimacy than just penetrative sex. There's so much more that you can explore. So
Oh yeah.
don't think that this is just, that act is the end all and be all of everything, that's what it has to be. And that's what you're going into thinking with the mindset, there's
As
so
a
many
guy,
more things that you can
there are
do.
guys that's really what they think it all is just that
Yep.
last
Yep.
thing. And it's like, okay, well, let's see. I can't remember who I was listening to. Oh, it was within the last 12 months. So it was a while ago, but not that long ago.
Mhm.
They were talking about the fact that, especially for women, penetrative sex is the least arousing part of sexual interaction.
Yeah.
Just
It's weird because they say only about 20% of women can actually have a vaginal orgasm, which
Yeah.
is, I was
yeah,
shocked when I
highly
kind of learned.
unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I saw those statistics and I was like, really? Wow. I had no idea that like most of our population, women,
Yeah.
were like that. I just
I know.
assumed that it was like, because that's what it's there for, right? I mean, I just assumed that's how everyone, but no, yeah.
Yeah.
The stats, there's just a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk
There
about with your
is.
kids, and there's, a lot to learn as an adult. And if you're getting back
Yep.
into the dating game after being gone a while, I
Oh yeah.
encourage you.
And even for
First
people who've
expensive.
been married for a long time, like my husband and I, we've been together for, like I said, a whole schwack of years. But there are still times when it's like, wow, I didn't know that about
Yeah.
you. Or, oh my goodness, you want to try what?
Right, right.
Well, let's talk about it at least, because
Exactly.
we're old enough to do it, so we better be old enough to talk about it.
Exactly. Have the
So-
conversation with your partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And there's a lot of people who are Christians who would say that this conversation right now is sinful. Just the conversation is sinful because we're talking about sex, sexuality, we're talking about out of marriage intimacy, we're talking about all of these different things. Grow up,
Yeah.
Not
everyone prescribes to one view, and
people
think
will
that's-
die because of ignorance of these topics.
right. Or people are going to
people-
get themselves in a situation where they're strapped with a baby, and they're going to have to look for options, and
or they're going to be assaulted, or they're going to be, like all of these different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really crazy. It was funny. I remember there was actually a case where I remember hearing about a woman getting out of being assaulted because she told the guy she had AIDS. And this was, in the real big swing in the late 80s, early 90s when that was all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it would work so much nowadays, but that was.
I think it still would. That's one that might still work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to me. It was like,
Yeah.
Well, might as well try it. I mean, if you're in the situation and you're looking for ways to get out physically,
Exactly.
if you can't, overpower them, if you can get your front of your brain working and get those thoughts going, that might be, something to stick in your bag to pull out if you ever need that.
See, I think this is why I keep my nails long, because I mean, I can sit there and I can grab somebody like this and it'll hurt a whole lot, chances are they'll let go.
Yeah.
Or stab them in the eyes.
I do. Well, they're not too long right now. Some of them, this one just broke today, but
Okay. You have
down
long
below
fingers.
the line.
Wow. You do.
I
You
feel like
long
I have
fingers.
I feel like I have short fingers when I don't have my nails
Yes.
It's like all of a sudden you have nubs.
I'm missing half of a finger here. What's going on? It's only like the last.
Like no. There's been
quarter of
times
an
I've had to
inch.
cut them all off
Yeah.
to type, you know, if depending
Yeah.
on what I'm doing at work, you know, and so I'll cut them off. But if I'm in the sun regularly, they will grow back to your length within a couple of weeks. My
Yeah.
my hair and my nails just grow like a weed.
Oh,
when
mine
I
don't.
have sun. Yeah, it's only when I have sun. When it's not sun, then they're a slow
Okay.
growth. But as long as I'm out in the sun, they are just.
Well, this
like...
is me tanned. What does that tell you? Just saying. Actually, I could take my watch off and show you my tan line. Can you say? How do you say you're Irish without saying you're Irish? That's my
Yeah.
tan line.
That's
right
my
there.
mom. Yeah, you're so my mom.
This is yeah,
Yeah, my mom is like so white. She's translucent. She's
pretty much.
She's
Yeah.
pretty much. She's more Scottish. I think she's got more Scottish and stuff in her than the Irish.
I'm
but
pretty sure I have more Scottish in me than Irish as well.
I don't know. You can't really tell because I don't too much where my tan line was from today from having my shirt, but it's like
Oh my goodness.
it's right here. I have my shirt, my long
Okay.
sleeve pulled up. So
Yeah.
that's my tan line from today. And so that's just one day out. But
Oh wow.
I was like my mom until I went to Kenya. And I went from, I had summer, spring, summer, then went to early fall where we had Indian summer, and then went to summer over there. And so I was basically in
Right.
summer for a year. I was in sunshine for a year. And
Oh,
my
wow.
skin tone changed to my dad, who's Polish. So it's very Slavic. And so he has a very darker undertone. So all of a
Oh.
sudden, instead of the winter where everything just went away and I was like back like you and my mom, the undertone color just never went away in the winter, except for my face. That drains like whatever. It's really strange.
Body, I love this, Lucy.
Albino glow.
Albino glow. That's awesome. I love
Very
it. And I
nice.
just say I go from Casper to lobster. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I'm either one or the other. But actually, okay. Now
Yeah, I
I'm
can
gonna
see
go nice
your
and close here.
glasses.
Can you see this pink right here?
Oh yeah,
on
but
my
I can also see kind of your tan line with your
No,
your
this
glasses.
is actual blush. This is right here and right here on my cheeks. In 2006, I went to Thailand for 3 weeks. All 3 weeks, I kept out of the sun. I didn't get a burn. It was great. The second last day there, I got a sunburn on my face. That is the remnants of that sunburn.
That is so weird because I got a sunburn and one time. This is in 8th grade, and this is
Mhm.
the result. I got this
Yeah.
weird freckle. They're freckles,
Yeah.
basically. This weird freckle pattern showed up when I was 13 years old, and I've had it ever since. And it's just so strange.
Okay, Eric, that's hilarious.
Soul glow.
Do you remember that from Coming to America? Oh my goodness, that's
Yes, yes,
hilarious. I
yes.
love that, Eric. That's awesome. Okay,
But-
so now we've gone from talking about trauma to consent to sex to sun
Tan
damage.
lines. Yeah, tan lines. Yes, my mom was always the thermometer. Like, how tan were you? It was like, go
Yeah.
compare to mom. Let's see, because mom was always
The
so white.
tanmometer.
Yeah, exactly. So we would compare. How are you? And then dad was on the other end because he,
Yeah.
in summer he's so
Between
dark
mom and
black.
dad, how tanned are you?
How tan are you? And let's compare.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny.
It could be rosacea that was flared up by the sun, but it happens. It's how do I explain? My doctor has said it's not rosacea because it doesn't have the little spider lines that rosacea
Oh.
frequently has. So yeah,
Hi William, how you doing? Thanks for dropping in.
yeah. Oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah, we've been all over the place tonight.
We have, and I love it. I love it. I want more conversations like this one where we get to talk
Absolutely.
about everything and
Yes.
laugh.
Yes.
I love laughing.
Yes, it was, and
So good.
that's part of the reason why I did the Be Kind live that I had yesterday. April is Sexual
Absolutely.
Assault Awareness Month here in the States, and so it was something I really wanted to cover, and I wanted to cover some different topics with it. I didn't want to do just what is sexual assault, how do you avoid it,
Yeah.
grooming, blah blah, kind of covered all of that. So that's why I
Yeah.
had chosen some of the other topics that we had, and so I had to put off Wednesday's topic for the Be Kind. As I said in the live, I was just, needing chocolate, right? So
Yeah.
I was having a crap week. So I do what any good woman does. Or
That's right.
first I went for chocolate, and
Yeah.
just holding the door open for that man was just, such a light bulb for me. And it was wonderful.
I
But I am
know.
committed. On Saturday, we are going to be covering bystander intervention because I think there's a topic that people don't talk about. They don't know about it in terms of
Right.
knowing what to do, what to say, when should you, when shouldn't you. There's no judgment if you do or if you don't type of thing, but
Right.
it is,
Yeah.
something that's near and dear to my heart because I was in high school when I found out about the Kitty Genovese case from my mother, because that was a New
Mm.
York case, and my mom, we lived in New York at the time, and it, having dozens upon dozens upon dozens of people witness the actual assault and hear her, and nobody did a darn thing.
I know.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we're not talking one or two people. We're talking dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and nobody did
That's
anything
embarrassing as a
to
society.
intervene. You can kind of understand, okay, people, they don't want the cops. They don't want to deal with the cops and whatever. But if you've got that many people, I mean, just standing around, I mean, nobody stepped in to prevent this for this poor woman. And I think about that, and, they've got those shows, What Would You Do?
Yes.
And they'll have some
Yeah.
situations where the guy's talking rough to her or the mom's
Yep.
doing something. And I think it's important that we think
Absolutely.
about these questions within ourselves, and because we have to make a decision, I think, ahead of time on
Mhm.
the types of things that we think we might do or
Mhm.
think we might be comfortable with to have any sort of hope to move into action when,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the time were ever to be appropriate for it. So I'm 100% committed to dealing with bystander intervention. I've got a bunch of different pamphlets that I'll have links to that
Oh,
you
good.
can
Okay.
download, that the national, I'm going to get the name wrong, but the organization that first created Sexual Assault Awareness Month, they've done a bunch of stuff,
Okay.
and so they've created all these pamphlets and
Oh,
postcards
good.
and little one-liners and things like that. So I'll have all that
Yeah.
information, all the research that I've done
Oh,
in the
excellent.
link. So that'll be
Okay.
Saturday's show.
Oh, that's great. Well, my friend, this has been a blast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do have to
Thank
do this
you.
more often. Uh, we have requests. They need to do more shows together. So maybe once every 2-3 months or something like that, we have to get together, because it's been a long time since you
It
and I did a
has,
show
yes.
together. Very long time.
Very long time.
Yes. So yeah, we will have to make sure that happens.
100%.
Yes.
Thanks,
I'm gonna
Desi.
go. And I think my behind the scenes moderator might need to go to sleep soon because she has to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, she's up early.
Yeah, she's up late.
She's up late tonight. She's got to get
She's
up
up late
early.
tonight. It's past 4 p.m. So, and
Yeah.
she's still awake. So I'm impressed. But anyway, yes, I need to let her go back to bed. So thank you, everybody, for coming by.
100%.
Thank you, Mac, for your expertise, your wisdom, your humor. Thank you for all of that, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for
I'm
all
getting
of it. Thank you.
goosebumps even just thinking about you getting that. I'm not kidding.
Thank
Getting
you for having
goosebumps.
me, and I promise I'm going to get that tomorrow morning is actually on my list to get my speech recorded. I was trying to record it and I was like, oh, it's 1:20. Shoot, before it's gonna
What do I take out?
I'm like,
No,
it
you just
seems
talk
all
faster.
important. It's just 2 small paragraphs. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to talk a lot faster.
I'll have to talk
with
faster
it.
like this because frankly, yeah, you can only get so many
Yep.
words in every few
So,
seconds. And it's,
so when I get my little trophy, I'll be able to show you guys.
that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming by.
you.
I really appreciate that. Thanks, Mods, for all the work that you've done. And thank you for Max Group for coming and saying hi. I love y'all. You're great. And I'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Some come with scars, some come with dreams. In this circle, we're more than what we seem. No judgment here, just voices to be heard. Through laughter, through the tears, we find every word.
I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.